All right, we're going to listen to something here real quick. It's right around 8 o'clock Eastern, which is basically in the beginning phases of the first airplane hitting the first Twin Tower. I just had some things on my heart that I wanted to say today regarding 9/11 and regarding all the stuff that's going on right now on planet Earth. And if I sound like a sourpuss, or if I sound like somebody that's trying to put out a aggravated negative message on 9/11, it's probably because I truly am aggravated. A matter of fact, I don't think that I've ever been so heartbreakingly distraught as I am today in going through the newscasting stations and seeing where basically 9/11 was being remembered in most of your smaller towns here in America, but as far as something on a big scale, um, it's not really happening. But I do want to focus your attention, if you don't mind, on this particular big scale, and just listen to the things that are going on. Just a little bit of the things that are going on in America, rather than a mixed up group of people, either on the Republican or Democrat side, that, as far as I'm concerned, last night, by me listening and recording what went on with the debate, was nothing more than a free-for-all. What I was hearing was two different groups of people that was trying to blame each other for the mistakes that has been made, and no one truly had a solution to the problems other than maybe the Democrat Party, that wanted to emphasize on different characteristics that they was going to do for the people today, but once more, not absorbing the fact of us being a nation that's already $35+ trillion in debt, knowing that as you give away all the giveaways, all that's going to do is have a all that's going to do is going to diminish the national debt of being 35 trillion to some other kind of, who knows what other kind of number is coming up. I mean, they're debating right now on how they're going to not shut the government down towards another deal that this makes probably about, give or take, probably about the 70th or 80th time that they have discussed shutting the government down and shutting the government policies down since the early 80s. So in the middle of all the chaos, to me, this is my opinion, we do not need a presidential election debate on the scale that it was last night, towards basically making a bunch of people upset because it wasn't nothing more or less than a free-for-all. Whenever you hear of good sounded, common sense people sitting down and saying, look, this is what we're going to have to do, and this is why we're going to have to do it, and this is going to be the only way of us working our way out of this problem, I didn't hear that last night on either side. And that's another reason why, among many, that I say that neither party is worthy of my vote. They have lost control of this great nation, towards governing this great nation in the way that this nation needs to be governed. And the people, by and large, they deserve better than this. Please listen to this. This absolutely is a heartbreak in the beginning phases of what I actually want to say about 9/11, but this was so important that I felt like that this needed to be addressed. Please listen.
Several homes, structures completely destroyed.
Let's back up.
Several homes, structures completely destroyed. It has been an apocalyptic scene across Southern California. Thousands of residents forced to flee their homes as firefighters desperately work to push back flames, attacking them on the ground and by air. There are currently 3 massive blazes. You have the line fire in San Bernardino County, the bridge fire in LA and San Bernardino County, and again, the airport fire here in Riverside County that's also burning in Orange County.
Now, don't get me wrong. I realize that for the past 10, 12, 15 years, the fires out west has become old hat. Don't get me wrong. I realize that people by and large that's not living out there in the west kind of listen to these reports and say, well, it's just another bad year for the people out west. In other words, we have become calloused to the danger factor of what's actually occurring in those areas. But we're also becoming calloused of all the murders, all the school shootings, us being $35 trillion. We're also becoming callous towards all the illegal immigrants coming over the border. We're also becoming callous to basically releasing hardcore criminals out into society after they get through committing a crime that basically our jail systems don't have enough room to put them in. And because of it, our courts is basically slapping them on the back of the hand and saying, well, don't do it again, and turning them back out into the eyes of the public. The people deserve better than this. And that's what I want to emphasize on today pertaining to what I'm going to say around 9/11. Please listen to this once more again. I'm going to back this up. That way I'm not interfering with what they're saying here. Please listen. It's so heartbreakingly, despairingly horrific in what they're talking about. Please listen.
Several homes, structures completely destroyed. It has been an apocalyptic scene across Southern California. Thousands of residents forced to flee their homes as firefighters desperately work to push back flames, attacking them on the ground and by air. There are currently 3 massive blazes. You have the line fire in San Bernardino County, the bridge fire in LA and San Bernardino County, and again, the airport fire here in Riverside County that's also burning in Orange County, and together they've threatened tens of thousands of structures. Now, authorities in San Bernardino County say a 34-year-old man has been taken into custody there in connection with the line fire. He's currently being held on $80,000 bail, guys.
All right, Mola, thank you. And coming up in our GMA morning menu, Amazon entering the grocery store wars, battling Walmart and Target with a new no-frills line. How low will prices go?
Also, Beyonce talks about her creative process, her family, and the success of Cowboy Carter. That's coming up in Pop News. Plus, Lori B is here with football finds for all your tailgate needs. And Lara is with a special guest. Hey there, Lara.
I am Robin. I'm here with Oscar winner Jeff Bridges. We're always so happy when you come to GMA. We're going to hear all about Jeff's hit show, The Old Man. That's coming up. And he's going to tell us also what he's hoping his grandkids will call him. Don't share it yet. You'll want to see it coming up on GMA.
Between 9/11 being on today's anniversary and all the other heartfelt events that's going on, not just necessarily in our country, which is plenty, but worldwide, tells me that our media is out of touch with reality, and that they rather focus upon to the things that are more attractive and appealing than focus upon the things that are reality. This morning I awoken knowing that the anniversary of 9/11 was today. And because of it, I come out of my house and I said, well, it's time to honor those who perished during 9/11. And I got to thinking to myself, why are you doing this for, Dennis? Why are you basically going out of your way early in the morning before the first airplane hit the first Twin Tower and purposely taking the American flag and draping it down in an act of respect, or some say an act of shame, in what has occurred here, in which it can be validated just as quickly and as easily one way as it is, I believe, the other, pertaining to all this. But in response to also all the gun violence that we have now become adapted to, callous to, for the past, I guess, 15 years. And in seeing all the other problems pertaining to the drug overdoses and the suicides, all the horrendous acts of forces of Mother Nature towards this planet basically heating up from the inside out, and witnessing the things that are happening not just here in America, but all over the world. Why are people taking these things still to this day, I believe in a nonchalant way, and not truly putting emphasis upon the importance of all this? And the only logical, not practical, the only logical answer that I can come up with is that these people are so ashamed of their actions that they know that if they address these problems that we're facing in the right perspective, that it's going to bring that much more enlightenment of their shame back towards them regarding everything that is occurring that obviously they're not addressing properly or transferring properly with our media. Now, I understand that there's been a lot of people here in Northwest Tennessee that wanted to go up against the Windmill Ministries missions here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, that was dead set that they wanted to prove me wrong while proving themselves right, even at the expense of watching the rest of the world basically be thrown into shambles or thrown into a state of chaos like we're seeing on a year-to-year, every year basis. I realize that because of their shame and because of their ego, it's easier to push somebody like myself off to the side and say, well, this individual's touched, or this individual don't know what he or she's talking about, and because of it, let's just continue to ignore this person because we've already done stereotyped this person, and we've already categorized this person towards this person basically being out of touch with reality. Well, after you have witnessed what you have witnessed just bleakly on TV today, with it being the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, and I've already flipped through the channels, you can take my word at it, that the majority of them are not focused upon the things that occurred during 9/11. A matter of fact, the majority of them ain't even focused upon the things that are occurring right now presently, either with the fires or all the other problems that has developed in the past few years. That if you really get to analyzing the media today, international media as well as local media, you will see where they are more emphasizing upon to a debate last night that was nothing more than a free-for-all, that was nothing more than a shameful, disgraceful act regarding our politicians. A shameful, despicable act that is more concerned about a mudslinging contest than they are towards the affairs of the American people. I want to clarify something today regarding the things that I've been talking about now for years regarding 9/11. It has only been until recently that various courts have begun to acknowledge the fact that the Saudi Arabia government was in fact in behind 9/11. It has only been until recently that various families directly involved with 9/11 have been awarded various, not millions, but billions of dollars coming from Saudi Arabia, which is basically peanuts on a dollar. Peanuts on a dollar. I realize that type of money, it sounds good in the sense of, well, we're at least getting something in return for the lives of our loved ones. But in reality, how can you put a figure, an actual monetary figure on somebody's life that is valued not just on a personal level, but on a national stage of what that person is actually worth or was worth before they died? Just like the people that died out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, that never should have died. Just like the people that died out in Mount Carmel, Waco, Texas, that never should have died, pretending all them children and women and stuff. How can you actually put a dollar bill sign on a human being's life that even Ronald Reagan talked about quite frequently, that how can you pay back people that are willing to sacrifice their very own lives for our freedom? And the answer to that question, you can't. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how much gold and silver that you may have. You will never be able to get that human being back into those loved ones' lives, or their friends, or their family's lives. It's impossible. So just exactly what is this thing called a monetary settlement? It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid, and it's nothing more than kicking the can down the road towards not acknowledging who was actually at fault and why it occurred and what we're supposed to do as a just nation in return towards what actually did occur. Now, I want to clarify something in regards towards some of the things that I've been talking about on my social media platform that some people have swung at it and missed at it by at least 3 foot or more. First of all, you keep in mind that we are in a delayed entry right now pertaining to ground zero, which is planet Earth, regarding the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ on an international global scale towards us Christians walking and talking among ourselves here on planet Earth should have already been transfigurated from mortal to immortal in the twinkling of an eye, and we should have done already went home to live with God and God's only begotten Son and all our loved ones up in heaven towards getting us out of this hellacious hell down here on planet Earth that various individuals has created for us all. That's number one, delayed entry. I'm going to use the word entry because we would actually be leaving planet Earth and entering into the heavenly realm. Number two, regarding this delayed entry, because of it, I've had to reassess. I've had to look at things from a different perspective of me putting out various warnings that I wouldn't have had to have done if we didn't have this delayed entry. In other words, whenever I put out the advisories or the warnings in 2005 to Mr. Junior Bush, Mr. Bush Jr., in 2005, after they'd supposedly won the election with Al Gore over the hanging chads pertaining to the Supreme Court, I was penalized for putting out that message of a bloody road ahead. I was penalized by being put into a mental institution in downtown Nashville, Tennessee, in Davidson County by Homeland Security Secret Service for approximately 4 days. The same thing regarding electrical disturbances soon to come in 2007 whenever I was up around Grand Rivers and Benton and Calvert City, Kentucky, up here in western Kentucky. I was putting out advisories that God had showed me that there was going to be massive electrical disturbances, and rather than me being respected or looked up to for trying to help humanity, I was actually degraded and penalized for that. Not once, not twice, but on 3 different levels pertaining to the things that went on in my life in Western Kentucky. Now, you may be asking, where exactly are you going with all this, Dennis? Because of the delay entry tactics that the devil obviously has used, not just necessarily against the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions, but against all God's creatures down here on the planet Earth that have accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into their life. It has put things now in a different perspective. This wasn't done voluntarily. This was not done by myself, pertaining to me wanting any of these occurrences to happen, but these are the facts of the reality that I'm having to deal with now because of this rebellious, delayed entry that has delayed all God's true born-again Christians of entering into the kingdom of God, that basically we should have done already seen a peace and utopia and a revival here on planet Earth way before now. But because we haven't, and because of this demonic movement down here on planet Earth, I'm having to deal with things on a different perspective, and that's what I'm wanting my viewers to understand today on the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, that I know for a fact it had come from the Saudi Arabian government that financed and masterminded this particular event of killing almost 3,000 people that day. Now, what I want to clarify is the reason why that I've been putting emphasis myself on one of their figureheads pertaining to their prince over in Saudi Arabia, towards him being Satan. He is not the actual Satan in the flesh, but he will be taking over the powers that reside in that area that did manufacture a true fleshly Satan pertaining to the king and those royal family members that are associated with Saudi Arabia. In other words, because of the delay, now they have put this individual that was born in 1985, which would have made this particular individual 3 years old whenever I met this body of people over here in Martin, Tennessee in 1988. So by you saying that this is the actual fleshly Satan in the flesh, no, that is not what I mean. I mean metaphorically, because of the powers that are going to reside after the king dies, towards him being the king, then he will have those same powers. But in reality, the individual that I'm talking about that was manufactured from the Luciferian Lucifer, towards him being the actual fleshly Satan, is still alive. He still resides in Saudi Arabia, towards being a Saudi Arabia citizen, pertaining to the Saudi Arabia government, royal family, that masterminded 9/11, that still to this day is still at large. Now, I realize some people that listen to this will say, well, this guy, he's hard to keep up with. You know what? It has become complex. It has become very complex, to the point that me as an investigator really had to sit down and analyze towards just exactly what has really occurred here in the past 30 plus years, since old man Reagan finally convinced the superpowers that the world was not going to be destroyed by a nuclear holocaust by man-made, but it was going to be destroyed the way that God intended for it to be destroyed. But because of these delayed tactics of the church world, even here in Northwest Tennessee, not wanting to stand behind, support, and back the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions, it has put us way behind the 8 ball. And because it has put us way behind the 8 ball, I felt like that the American people and the world, especially the Christian world, deserve to know the fundamental values of the things that I've been talking about, and the reason why that I've been putting them in the categories that I've been putting them in. Now, I've been nothing but a punching bag for the past 30 plus years here in America, especially coming from the psychiatric community, that wanted to basically roll me every way that they could in staining me every way that they could, towards marking me or branding me every way that they could. And ultimately, in the end, whenever I come back here 10 years ago to Northwest Tennessee, here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 3255, they actually used a complete different tactic that I identified in 2005 towards a group of people that wanted to basically change their concept of me towards me no longer being just somebody that was out of touch with reality, but they wanted to change the concept. That way they could once again prove that I was wrong and they was right in stating the fact that I was some sort of a threat to my own people, towards being basically a homegrown terrorist. That's whenever they decided to charge me in Martin, Tennessee, here in Weakley County, that the courts stood behind, towards falsifying files, which basically means the same thing according to their Tennessee statute law books as somebody that pulls down a fire alarm and there is no fire either in a hospital or a school, or somebody that cries fire, fire, fire in a theater and all along there was no fire. Once more, they was trampling on my First Amendment rights pertaining to freedom of speech here in Weakley County, and it wasn't just that they was trampling on my rights. You keep in mind that that individual right now that's on a $80,000 bond in California that I guess deliberately set one of those fires, once a judge identifies that you truly are a threat to humanity, either in one form or the other, odds are you ain't never getting out, either out of jail or getting out of a mental institution. And if you're not crazy whenever you go in, pertaining to you being this type of a threat, after they get through juicing you up with all these different kind of chemicals and drugs that the psychiatric community has, if you're not crazy whenever you go in, you for darn sure will be by the time you come out, providing that you come out like Hinckley that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, that basically slowing every part of your organs down, that basically is giving you a chemical lobotomy to where your brain will be dysfunctional. And a lot of people in these hospitals basically are slobbering all over their shoes, walking around, bumping into walls, not knowing daylight from dark. So if you're not crazy whenever you go in, you will be whenever you come out. And I mean that respectfully, because this is basically the only way that the psychiatric community knows how to treat people that are considered a harm to society. In the meantime, while they're doing this to those that are harmful, they're also doing this to those that have been misunderstood, such as myself, those that did have gifts, those that did have assets to be able to foster with society here on planet Earth towards helping humanity rather than hurting humanity. And whenever I talk about these things, trust me, I have put a great deal of thought into these things, just like me going out west and studying towards what occurred during the 51-day Waco Mount Carmel siege with the Branch Davidians, just like me putting a great deal of study and research in what went on in the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma bombing, of knowing that there was no way humanly possible that 3,000 to 4,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate was going to do that type of damage, that their government officials in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, was not telling the whole truth to the victims and to the world regarding finding hundreds of detonators in the lower part of the building that should not have ever been there to begin with. That was basically one of the major assets in how that building was destroyed from the inside out, towards blowing all the debris back towards the Ryder truck, which is theoretically impossible if it would have been just the Ryder truck. Because I discovered those things, and because of the misunderstandings in my life, it basically shut me down, especially after West Kentucky, in Trigg County, Kentucky, by the name of Judge Woodall, done what they done in trying to finish me off by putting me on Risperdal and causing me to gain excess weight from going from basically 240 to 340 pounds in less than a 90-day period because of this drug called Risperdal. And I'm still fighting this unnecessary weight gain. And at the same time, I'm also fighting old injuries of me falling off of a 4-story building, breaking both my legs and crushing both my ankles, towards basically trying to get that in behind me. That way, once I get that in behind me, I can go back to my routine of walking, exercising, and yes, doing physical routine weights or whatever towards trying to regain my strength back. That never should have put me in this category to begin with at the age of 63. So whenever I talk about me knowing what has went on, I really do know what has went on pertaining to these delay tactics that has basically put America and the world where we are today. Now, if it's easier for the people over in Kenton, Tennessee, and Sharon, Tennessee, and Greenfield, Tennessee, and Martin, Tennessee, and Dresden, Tennessee, Union City, Tennessee, basically the surrounding 15 counties around in this Northwest Tennessee area, if it's easier for those people to categorize me towards me being somebody that has a loose screw or somebody that's out of touch with reality, that's fine with me. I don't have a problem in that. But what I do have a problem with is whenever you are given the power to take care of my rights and you sit idly by and you allow for us to basically be the community whipping post, such as Tommy Moore and Mr. Pence and other officials that either was in power or that still is in power here in Northwest Tennessee and Weakley County, whenever you sit idly by and allow for these things to occur pertaining to dereliction of duty to the expense of me losing a 51-year-old younger brother, which would have been my only remaining sibling, and you act as if these things are not important to me, are important to us, then you are fringing on the wrath of God. And whenever I say the wrath of God, I'm not talking about myself, because myself tells me to be wise as serpents but harmless as doves. So whenever I talk about the wrath of God, I'm not talking about me. But what I am talking about is things like 9/11. What I am talking about is things like hurricanes and tornadoes and illnesses and people's lives being separated and divorces and us being $35+ trillion in debt and seeing all the miraculous, horrendous, catastrophic fires that are basically engulfing thousands of people's lives out west that are only intensifying and seems to be getting worse every year. Every year. Now, granted, God has blessed us tremendously here in the Northwest Tennessee towards bringing adequate rains this year in the year 2024 in the agricultural department. But I'm telling you right now, just because God done that this year doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to do it next year and the year after that, because I'm telling you, God will get tired of winking over the facts of the things that the people are doing that they can no longer consider or categorize towards being an act of ignorance or declaring themselves as being insane, because we know that you're not. We know that you're not ignorant, and we know that you're not insane. You have a brain, you have a body, you can understand, you can comprehend things, you can read the Bible, you can interpret the Bible, and you should be on the same level that I'm on right now, especially those who are older than me, or those who are older in the Lord than me, that have studied and studied and crammed and crammed and crammed the Bible. But to still get absolutely zero response and zero support from this area at the Windmill Ministries missions here at 291 Thompson Road is a disgrace, Tommy Moore. Is a disgrace, Randy Brundridge. Is a disgrace, Kenton, Tennessee. Is a disgrace, Martin, Tennessee. Is a disgrace, Weakley County and Obion County, Tennessee, and up in Kentucky, and out towards Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, as well as Mount Carmel, Waco, Texas. These are all disgraceful events. just like what went on in 9/11. And to think that we haven't basically stopped in recognizing and honoring these people's deaths. Which leads me to the final point that I'm trying to make is this. If we cannot honor our heroes, if we don't honor those who have sacrificed their lives for our freedoms, do you really think that after we are dead and gone that anybody's going to honor ours? Think about it. Think about it very carefully, media here in America. And whenever somebody like Mr. Putin speaks up in behalf of his government, in which, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Putin sympathizer, not at all. But whenever he speaks out towards his government being cheated, he's not lying. And the fact that he's not just speaking for his particular government being cheated, but he's speaking on behalf of all the other people throughout the planet that has been cheated because of this rebellion that started right here in Northwest Tennessee, Kenton, Tennessee, and right here in Northwest Tennessee, Martin, Tennessee. It began right here, and eventually all these people that I'm getting my message out to, they're going to come to the same conclusion, and eventually they will hold people like Tommy Moore and Mr. Pence and prior Tommy Thomas and Mike Wilson and Randy Brundage and all these other people that started this. Of course, some of them can't be held responsible right now in this lifetime because they're already dead. Such as the mayor over in Kenton, Tennessee, that basically throwed the first shot over the bow pertaining to Damian Cross. Damian Cross has been dead for I don't know how many years. So it ain't like the public can go after Damian Cross today in this lifetime. But what they can do is hold people like Damian Cross accountable in the lifetime to come. So if people like Damian Cross and other people like Don Curry, which was the Kenton, Tennessee PD at that time that is still living over in Rutherford, if people thinks that they have gotten away with these things, they're only fooling themselves, just like the Neal family. I think the world of the Neal family. I thought the world of Leroy Neal, even though Leroy Neal may have had a bad reputation towards how that he wheeled and dealed in selling and buying tractors and farm equipment and doing various things in this area. I still had a great deal of respect for Leroy Neal because as far as I know, Leroy Neal never did financially burn me on any deals because I didn't allow for him to. You know, a lot of times people get burnt because of their own idiocy, because they basically put themselves in that position towards allowing for people to burn them, financially speaking, bad deals. Or you can get burnt in other ways, in other areas that basically you brought upon to yourselves. Well, I didn't bring this upon to myself. You keep in mind, I did not choose this position that God has put me in, the same as Moses didn't choose his position that Moses was in. Noah didn't choose his position that he was in. All the other prophets of God didn't choose their positions that God put them in. You know why? Because it was God that put them in those positions. Mary didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, Lord, because I'm a virgin, I think I want to have your child. Mary had no earthly idea that she was going to be chosen by God until the day that she was chosen by God. Towards walking around with the Son of Man in her womb. She had no idea. You know why? Because Mary didn't choose that position for herself. God did. God Almighty chose that position for what Mary was to do for God. Just like Christ. Christ did not choose this position, physically speaking, for himself. Spiritually, yes, he walked up to the throne room of God and said, yes, I'll volunteer to be a sacrificial lamb for humanity by going down and trying to teach them and save them in areas that need to be taught because of this wicked demonic spirit called Lucifer that has basically deceived and bamboozled the people. On a spiritual level, yes, Jesus shows himself, because Jesus was part of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the Trinitarian Trinity, in which if you have a problem in being able to look at things in a 3D form or in different variation forms, odds are you're never going to get that anyway. You're not going to understand that though Jesus was in a physical form, spiritually speaking, and basically morally speaking, he was representing the Father. And it wasn't until after Jesus was resurrected from the dead and he went back up into the heavens, because during the time that he was with us talking to his disciples, he said, I have things to tell you that you cannot endure, that you cannot accept. And because of it, he was restraining from those things. But he didn't restrain from those things whenever John on the island of Patmos was given a vision of revelations towards what was to occur, futuristically speaking, with all 7 churches on the planet. He didn't restrain then. But ever since then, it has been a complex I want to use the word contradictory, but in actuality, it's not contradicting of itself, but it's contradicting of humanity because of their lack of faith and because of them being doubters. It's contradicting in them accepting the teachings of John pertaining to the book of Revelations that's in correspondence with the last part of Daniel that even Jesus talked about that was going to occur whenever you shall see Jerusalem with arms, to know that these things are going to happen. That whenever you shall see these occurrences start to unfold, to woe be unto the inhabitants here upon to the earth, that during this time it talks about rejoice all ye heavens. Well, if you'll put rejoice all ye heavens along with the first opening of the seal that talks about that it was as the noise of thunder, didn't say it was thunder, said it was as the noise of thunder, pertaining to the heavens rejoicing and the people responding down here on planet Earth in a controversial way. Now, that was partly in what supposedly got me in trouble the way that it did in Weakley County, Tennessee in 2005, in Martin, Tennessee, after I was handing an individual some material, some Bible material, and explaining to him that there was going to be an explosion of controversy happening in my life, and that I was probably going to wind up on the Channel 6 News on account of it. Certain people, including David Moore, that used to be the chief of police in Martin, Tennessee, took those words out of perspective. Even though they apprehended me and drugged me all the way from Huntington, Tennessee, and questioned me, basically interrogated me about what was my intent. And I explained to him, look, buddy, I don't have no harmful intent in me saying what I said about an explosion, because people use the word explosion all the time, and it's not an harmful intended way towards using the word explosion. You can use the word explosion in thousands of different forms that don't mean that you're going to get out here and harm or hurt people. But that's what they wanted to do in Weakley County, Martin, Tennessee in 2005. That costed me my mini farm, costed me my wife, and then costed me having to move to Davidson County. That even to this day, once more, people like Tommy Moore and Pence and other people are still standing under the umbrella of ignorance pertaining to their robe, knowing good and well that what they done then, as well as what they done whenever I come back here from 2014 to 2017, that was basically the end of David Jeffrey Jackson, my younger brother. They're still standing under the robe of ignorance towards not pleading either guilty or innocent. And I know that they're guilty, and they know that they're guilty. And I have proof to prove that pertaining to all the incidences that happened right here at 291 Thompson Road. And if you don't believe me, call up the sheriff's department and find out how many incidences happened on this road right here from that point right there. How many times I've seen as many as 4, 5, 6 cop cars right here, not once, not twice, but sometimes 3 or 4 times a month, that went on for 3 consecutive solid years. Now, if that's not proof in the pudding towards a body of people not doing their jobs pertaining to dereliction of duty, I will kiss your tail and give you 30 minutes to draw up a crowd. We know what has occurred here. We know why it occurred here. Towards people wanting to reject biblical Bible prophecy in America. And you're going to keep on, folks, and right now I'm talking to the lives of the innocent. I'm talking to the youth. I'm talking to those that didn't have nothing to do with this rebellion. You're going to keep on until you don't move up onto these actions to these very people basically drag all of us off into the mouth of the volcano. Once we're off into the mouth of the volcano, in which what a lot of them is hoping for, once we become so hyper to the degree that now we're taking our anxiety out on one another, we'll dismiss the fact towards taking our anxiety off on the people that actually put us in these positions, put us in these places pertaining to the politicians. In other words, we'll be taking our anxieties out on one another rather than taking it out on them. And that's what they're hoping for. It's called a distraction. That if they can create this illusion or this distraction, that way they won't have to give an account for these things that's going on in this lifetime. Then they think that, oh, well, we got away with that, didn't we? Like Nancy Pelosi and all these other people that allowed for January the 6th to happen up there in the Capitol building. Just like Pam Blue, that was under Tommy Moore, pertaining to his number one secretary during the year of 2007 or 2008, whenever Obama was president, leading up until where we are right now with all the people that was losing their jobs, all the people that couldn't even pay their fines, all the people that couldn't keep up with their child support, that basically caused a calamity not only in the state of Tennessee, but all throughout this great nation. And once more, we have people that commit now harsh humanitarian crimes in America, but because the system is so overwhelmed, because the system is so full pertaining to the judicial justice system, they just slap them on the back of the hand. Once more, the true perpetrators that has created this has still not give an account. Just like over in Saudi Arabia, the true perpetrators that masterminded, financed, and plotted 9/11 because of what went on during Desert Storm and Desert Shield are still thinking that they have gotten away with this. And you know what? They may have very well gotten away with this, especially if I cannot muster up or rally a group of people in identifying just exactly what has occurred. Now, they have done the switch and bait. Matter of fact, they've done the switch and bait the day that the bombing took place. You got to call it a bombing whenever those airplanes was turned into missiles towards killing all them people at 9/11. They done a switch and bait immediately on bin Laden towards basically saying that he was a rebel and that they had banned him from that day on from ever coming back to Saudi Arabia. They used him as a ploy, as an scapegoat, and once they identified that they did finally pull it off, that's whenever the Saudi officials, the royal family, backed up and done the switch and bait. They not only done the switch and bait then, but they also done the switch and bait since then towards trying to make themselves out to be pretty and nice and kind and giving women all these rights, and now they don't have to walk around with veils, and now our people has all these glorious rights over there, and the whole time they're deceiving the public of just exactly how horrible, horrible, evil that they truly are, not just to their own people, but to the Christian people all over the world. I have never seen so much deception in my entire life that the people will fall for almost every time, unless there's somebody such as myself that's on the wall, that's blowing the trumpet, that's waving the banner and saying, no way, Jose, is this right? But yet now, people such as myself continues to either being ignored or being punished because it was the psychiatric community in 1983 that decided, because of the pretense of Damian Cross over in Kenton, Tennessee, well, we're just going to mark this individual and declare him as somebody that's been touched in the head. Well, I was touched, all right. I was touched by evil right here in the United States, working through the medical industry that wanted to present itself towards being godly and humanitarianly good, while the whole time, and I'm not saying all of them in the psychiatric community is this way, but the majority of them are demonic, and they know just exactly what they're doing whenever it comes to trying to treat people with chemicals and various drugs that just goes all the way back to the dark ages of whenever they were sure enough doing things to people that they shouldn't have been doing, towards putting them in cages and putting them down in basements and down in cellars and stuff like that, and basically destroying their lives. So I didn't, neither nor did my brother, fall for their bait. So they wanted to provoke us to the extent that we showed forth violence, anger, hostility. And that's what they was expecting out of old Juby. Well, if old Juby would have been the old Juby that old Juby was growing up as a teenager, old Juby would have probably fell for the bait. And so would have David. But because we were smarter than that, the only thing that we could do at that point in time was grin and bear it. As various people was lashing out at us, as various demonic figures coming from the Wiccans less than a quarter of a mile from here, and all these other people that was attacking us and allowing for the courts to turn their heads, we was basically having to grin and bear it. Well, now, you know who's bearing it? The people are. The innocent lives are bearing it. And until those innocent lives are willing to stand up and say enough is enough, and start recognizing the things that people such as myself are talking about, and Al Gore pertaining to global warming, until people are willing to do that, my friends, we are on a slippery slope. And every time we think that we're gaining a toehold towards going up the mountain, in actuality, we're going down it. And I'm just afraid that once we get down to the bottom of it, it's going to be a very ugly scene, not only for the American people, but for the world in general, because of this sly, slip and slide, bait and switch tactic that basically Satan himself has done, going all the way back into the late 80s, whenever Ronald Reagan finally convinced the superpowers that the world was not going to be destroyed by mankind, but it was going to be destroyed the way that God intended for it to be destroyed. The only problem was, whenever Ronald Reagan got off the airplane, they had no desire of giving Dennis James Jackson at 291 Thompson Road, that founded the Windmill Ministries missions, any type of recognition for that agreement. A matter of fact, they went just the opposite. They didn't just put me out on the limb to dry here in Northwest Tennessee. They was actually attacking us again and again and again. Like I said, if you don't believe me, all you got to do under the Freedom of Information Act is contact Damian Cross in Huntington, Tennessee, which I didn't even think that he was still practicing law until I went up through Huntington the other day and I still seen his name on the door. Go to Damian Cross, contact the Sheriff's Department, contact the courts here pertaining to the information that they don't ordinarily provide to the public, that these attorneys and these other people can get access to. and find out the truth. Find out the truth how Randy Brundridge, after Dennis Jackson was a loyal Christian to Central Baptist Church, find out how that he contacted and brought 3 different officers in 3 different cars out to Central Baptist Church to have me physically removed, even though there had never been not one incident that had occurred with any of the members in Central Baptist Church, or there had never been any incident at Central Baptist Church. But because they knowed who I was, they was stereotyping me. They was using prejudice tactics against me towards saying, well, we can't have you coming here, because if you start coming here to this church, everybody else is going to find out you come here, and then they're going to think that we're a part of what you believe in. Well, that's exactly what happened in 1989 up here in Greenfield, Tennessee, whenever I had those little horses in the back of my truck after my son and I done already went to New York City and all the boroughs and the Bronx and went to Washington, D.C. on 3 different occasions. Is that basically I was banned from various churches, either in Milan, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, Greenfield, Tennessee in 1989, and various other places, that was dead set that they was not going to listen to anything pertaining to a message of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse pertaining to the war of Armageddon. They was dismissing it. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to play a part of it. Just like they told me in Greenfield, Tennessee, well, you're welcome to come here, Dennis, but the things that you have in your truck, that's not welcome here. Because if you continue to come here and you have those horses in the back end of your truck, they're going to think that we're a part of what you are a part of. They told me the exact same thing in Oak, I think it was Oak something Baptist Church in Milan, Tennessee, less than probably 1,000 feet from Jerry Smith's body shop where I went to work for almost 5 years. I was basically banned from that church by their committee members, by their board members, that said, you're welcome. Personally, you're welcome, Dennis, but the ideology that you believe in is not. And don't bring it to this church, because if you do, it will be rejected. And then whenever I come back to Tennessee in 2014, basically I know probably a dozen churches from Dyersburg to Troy to New Bern to Martin to Dresden, all the way up to Jackson, Tennessee, of various churches that was banning me and saying, you know what, we don't want this individual on our property. Even though in Jackson, Tennessee, I was the one that built probably a $30 million facility pertaining to the First Baptist Church down on Highland Avenue before you ever get to the hospital. I was the one that helped build that church for almost 2 years. Our contractors was in there. This was whenever I first started doing ironwork, and now I'm not even eligible or worthy to go in the very building that I helped to build. Now, if that's not a slap in the face, I don't know what is. You wonder how come I say the things that I say, that this group of people in this area pertaining to the Americans are talking out of their basically they're just blowing smoke. White man speaketh with forked tongue pertaining to these individuals that does not support peace. If they truly supported peace after 30 plus years, don't you think that somebody would have already had the intelligence or the gall, whichever one you want to look at, the guts, of stopping out here and talking to me and being a part of the Windmill Ministries missions? So once again, proof is in the pudding as our world is being thrown off into total chaos, not just in America, but all over the world. All over the world, you can see where total chaos is erupting in some of these countries that are just unbearable for a lot of the Christian people to deal with. The good Christian people down in Mexico and South America, Honduras or wherever, those people are having to deal with issues right now such as was not even phantomly thought about before COVID. But now they're having to deal with them. because of all the drug cartels and all the illegals and all the ungodly people down there. Well, this is going on in Africa. This is going on in India. This is going on in China. This is going on all over the world. Ukraine, the Middle East. I know our media wants to focus just on the biggest of the biggest things that's going on over in the Middle East or over in Ukraine. But I promise you, if you get online and you get to looking at all the events that's happening all over the planet, regardless whether it be the massive fires out west or the floods in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, you will see where this planet right now has been totally turned upside down. Why is that? It's verification of the scriptures that says that in the last days Satan will come down in great wrath because it or he knows his time is short. In other words, he knows that he has failed. He has failed in this contest beginning thousands of years ago, and he has failed in trying to destroy my life pertaining to the anointing that was placed upon to my life towards me being the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions. He has failed in bringing me down. Has he hurt me? Oh, yeah. In lots of ways, he's crippled me. And in some ways, I brought it upon myself out of stupidity. But you know what? I'm evolving. I'm maturing. And I'm growing. And I'm learning. And as I'm learning all these fancy $100 words that all these politicians that went to college thought that they was the only ones that could decipher. Well, I'm learning those same words. May not know how to spell them, but I'm learning what they mean. And whenever it comes to basically a prelude of things that are going to occur, all I am is a stepping stone of the next step that's going to occur whenever Christ and Christ alone opens that second seal. And when that second seal is opened, my friends, if you think that you have seen bloodshed here on planet Earth, especially here in America, pertaining to our streets, you ain't seen bloodshed. If you think that you've seen bloodshed pertaining to what's going on right now over in the Middle East, you haven't seen bloodshed. If you think that you've seen bloodshed pertaining to what's going on in Russia, pertaining to the Ukrainians and all these other different countries that are struggling right now, you have not seen bloodshed. Because it says that this will be the hour of temptation that shall fall upon to all the world, not part of the world, but all the world, to try them that dwell here on planet Earth. These are the things that Kenton, Tennessee and Northwest Tennessee are guilty of that tried to stop. They tried to stop it by using this tactic. They tried to stop it by using that tactic. They tried to stop it by drawing it out and making it go as long as it has and hoping that it would eventually just wear out or go away or I'd just disappear. And we're going to use this tactic, this delay tactic, hoping that all this stuff would just basically go away and this individual would go away with it. Well, you know what? I didn't go away. And you know what? The people that had to sacrifice their lives on 9/11, they haven't gone away. They may have gone away physically, but they have not gone away emotionally, and they have not gone away spiritually, because the very people that the Windmill Ministries here at 291 Thompson Road pertaining to the Purple Heart Dragon Memorial is the very inspiration that has inspirated me pertaining to representing the dead, even though I'm of the living. Because it doesn't matter if it's the gun violence in America. It doesn't matter what happened in Waco, Texas, or Ruby Ridge, or all the other attacks upon to the American vessels that we've had pertaining to terrorism, or the attacks that happened in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, that killed 168 people, or the attacks that happened in New York and Pennsylvania field and the Pentagon, pretending almost killing 3,000 people. It doesn't matter. Those people are still just as live today as what they was during the time that they was walking in the body. It just so happens they're not walking in the body, but they're still alive. And because of it, the Windmill Ministries missions here at the St. Del's Recovery Shelter pertaining to the Purple Heart Dragon Memorial remembers those people every day, as well as other people that has made great sacrifices in standing up for the righteousness of God. Whenever I showed you what I showed you pertaining to all that gun violence, that's not stopped. I mean, there was an incident that happened on news because I think there was 4 or 5 that got killed and maybe 10 people that got injured pertaining to what went on in Georgia, north part of Atlanta. But since then, there's been other events, school shootings, or school stabbings that don't never hit the headline news. People thinks that this is mysteriously going away and everything is hunky-dory. That's what the media would love for you to believe. But I promise you, whenever I go to the grocery store and I buy a half a gallon of milk on Thursday that costs $2.76 or 96 cents or whatever it was, and then I go back on a Monday and get the same milk from the same store, and now it's $4 for that same half a gallon of milk, that strawberry milk. You can't tell me that this is my imagination. You can't tell me that I'm living in a state of unreality events, because this is our reality. And the people down here that are struggling right now, not just in America but throughout the planet, they see it and they know it and they can feel it every day. And until, I guess, enough people go to suffering, if that's what it takes before you're going to see this mighty movement coming from the Windmill Ministries missions, I guess you're on this trajectory of doom and gloom. What else am I supposed to think? Why do I say the things that I say about some of the people around here that has been involved in this rebellion? It's because it's the truth. And they know it's the truth. You know why they know it's the truth? Because if it wasn't, somebody would have done already grabbed me up and thrown me in front of a judge and taken me to court. Nobody's done that. You know why? Because the things that I'm talking about is truthful, and the things that I'm talking about can be proven. I still have live witnesses. I still got live witnesses pertaining to the event that happened in 1988 whenever I met these Arabs over here in Martin, Tennessee in a nightclub. Dwayne Davis and Dayton Earl Pinnock, they're still living. May take a while to pry it out of them pertaining to the truth of what whenever they was with Juby and all these freaking Arabs come out of freaking nowhere that basically put that little satanic cloth in my pocket. The same Arabs the week before that I met in Tony's Pizza that had the long hunting knife that could make it swirl round and around and around, that later become known as the Magic Man in Martin, Tennessee. I still got live witnesses. So this thing isn't my imagination. It's not that I'm out of touch with reality. It's that society is out of touch with reality, and I'm telling society right now, especially the lives of the innocent, that if you continue on the path that you're on, you're heading down a slippery slope of doom and gloom. And even somebody like prior President Donald J. Trump can recognize this and can see this happening right in front of his very eyes. It just so happens Donald J. Trump really don't know how to go about fixing the problem. He knows how to prevail the problem. He knows how to talk about the problem. He knows how to point his finger at other people by accusing them of the problem. But whenever it comes to somebody actually having a down-to-earth, common-sense plan of how we're going to correct all this, not only does he not know, but neither nor does Harris. They're just buying time. That's all they're doing. And I've said this all along. We are at a state right now of basically, we have already crossed the Rubicon of the point of no return, and you cannot fix something if it's unfixable. If it's already been shattered and broken to the point that now everybody and their brother is taking advantage of the good old American way towards us being $35+ trillion, you don't have to be a Harvard at Yale college degree student or some other college to be able to figure out the road that we are on is a road of doom and gloom. Now, you can prolong it all you want. You can kick that can down the road every time the debt ceiling comes due, which I said a while ago. I think it's about 70 or 80 times that they've done already. Went through the same song and dance. Well, let's just move the debt ceiling up. We'll jack it up. We'll go from a 35 trillion to a 37 trillion or a 36 trillion. Knowing good and well that because of the way the system is designed pertaining to the compounded interest on top of interest, there's no way humanly possible that we're going to be able to make up for the indebtedness that we're already in. And why they can't acknowledge that and say, you know what, this is what we're going to have to do, people. We're going to have to abolish this debt. We're going to have to start all over again, and we're doing this for the benefit and the will of the people. Why they don't do that, it makes me think that they enjoy seeing all the suffering. They enjoy seeing people's lives being destroyed. They enjoy seeing people struggling and not getting ahead. It's evil. It's evil in the fullest form. Just like all our medical industry over here, how come we hadn't already got a national health care the same as Canada, France, England, and some other countries out here, and us supposed to be the richest, powerful country in the world? It's because of greed. They don't want to give up that avenue of possibly becoming wealthy or rich. Because that's the reason why these doctors study, not 4 years, not 6 years, not 8 years, some of them even longer than that. Oh, I'm going to get this degree and I'm going to be this hotshot doctor. And even though I'm going to have to pay $500,000 for malpractice insurance, after it's all said and done with, I'm still going to pocket about $2 or $3 million a year. Well, after I do that for 5 or 6 years, I can retire and I can go live on an island somewhere and do as I wish. So you don't think that if I can see these things going on, that other people can too as well, pertaining to our medical industry? And the fact of the matter is, that hypocritical oath that they take ain't worth the paper that it's written on. Because I promise you, if you don't have adequate insurance now, since COVID has hit America and rattled us over here, if you don't have the right kind of insurance, they will look at you and they'll pretend, oh, we're so sorry. That's what they'll say. Oh, we're so sorry. While they're pushing you out either the back door or the front door. In other words, go die an elegant death somewhere else. We don't want to be a part of this. But they are a part of this. They are a part of this. They're just pretending that they're not. But in actuality, they are the problem. The wealthy and the rich. The 3%ers, especially the 1%ers, they're the ones that has manufactured and manifested this environment now that we're all having to be exposed to on a day-to-day level. Like I said, I walked into Walmart in Paris, Tennessee. I picked up a half a gallon of strawberry milk that cost $3 and I think 97. I don't know. It was less than it was $2 and something, less than $3. And then I go in there after the weekend's over with, and it's up to $4. Well, I've got to talking to certain individuals that work at Walmart, and everything is adjusted pertaining to headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas. And they've actually seen price hikes go up on stuff, and then the following afternoon, take them back down. Or vice versa. They've seen price deductions happen on stuff, and they go in there and they relabel it and they mark it all down, and then before the ends of the day, it all goes back up. So who's playing with us? The 1%ers. Keep in mind, it's the Waltons. That's number 1 in the Fortune 500. So you can't tell me who's playing with who regarding the richest of the rich versus the poor. And you don't have to be the poorest of the poor no more to be affected. And people are just now awakening to that, because so many people now that thought that they had it on an easy streak and they was going to take an early retirement, and they had, let's say, $50,000, maybe $100,000 in the 401k. Well, now they've had to go in there and get all that out. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. And whenever you do that, you basically sacrifice about half of it. In other words, if you got $100,000 in your 401k and you take it out before it's time to take it out, you get penalized and punished to the degree that they basically get about half of it. Well, who gets that half? Who gets that half? Because you was forced to get it out of the bank, basically. The 1%ers, the 3%ers, the people that are living off of that system that they have created pertaining to Wall Street. You got the wealthy and the rich that are getting richer, while now not just the poor that are getting poor, but now the working class and those that thought that they had the tiger by the tail are realizing, oh my God, this is what it's going to take to survive. And if we don't go out here and do this, honey, we're going to sure enough plummet and go to the bottom. Well, in the meantime, these doctors, these lawyers, these judges, these rich people, they're still playing the same game. And they're playing it against us. And until we, as a society, are willing to stand up and say enough is enough regarding who was at fault, not just of 9/11, but who has plummeted us off into this financial disarray, until we're willing to awaken to this, we're only going to continue to go down the slippery slope. And once we get down to the very bottom of it, you're going to say to people like me, oh me, we wish we would have listened instead of spoken. But at that point in time, it will be too late. It will be too late to reassess. It will be too late to pick up what pieces that can be salvaged and either engineer a new system or a better system. And at that point in time, we will basically be at our wits' end. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I truly believe that there's certain people that that's exactly what they want. They want total anarchy. To be displayed upon each other. That way, they will not have to be accountable for their own actions of what that they have done to the people. Now, friends, this is 9/11. This is the anniversary of 9/11 on the 23rd year, the anniversary of 9/11. And if we as a society are not smart enough to identify what's happening, then maybe we don't deserve to have a second chance towards regaining and seeing prosperity and peace and utopia worldwide. Because it was the adults, the baby boomers, those that thought that they had the tiger by the tail, that had created this environment for all of us. Not just the actual global warming environment, but the monetary environment, the social environment, the inflation environment, the economical aspect of this environment. They are the ones that has created this. while the lives of millions of people get chewed up and falls through the cracks and basically becomes destroyed. Now, it has taken somewhat of courage for me to stand up and say what I've said today in honor of the dead and in honor of the righteous. And I'm going to see from this moment on, after I present this video on my social media, either on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, how many people respond to it positively. Because as of right now, I don't know how many thousands. I think it's give or take about 7,000 YouTube videos. Some of those videos are some of them are three plus hours long. Most of them are only about an hour and a half long. But still, if you got that many videos out there and you're still not getting no response from the people, it really speaks volumes about where we are as a people. After I present this video today on 9/11 anniversary, year 2024, I'm going to see once more in how many people respond to it. And if it's the same old, please, whatever you do, don't come knocking on my door expressing and explaining to me how sorry that you are, because I promise you I will not believe you. Just like these doctors and nurses, these hospitals that shove these people out either the front door or the back door and say, well, we're so sorry. We couldn't do nothing with you because you didn't have the right kind of insurance or you're not the right kind of person. Don't tell me that you're sorry, because I know that you're not. Not in the sense that you're saying that you are. Oh, you're sorry, all right. You're a sorry, worthless human being that's willing to do other human beings the way that you're doing them. You're a sorry human being pertaining to the richest of the rich that has put all of us, compromised all of our lives, and putting us where we are today. You're a sorry, worthless human being, basically about as worthless as a boar hog with tits, other than feeding yourself and loving the things that you want to do for yourself. But yet now you're supposed to be a public subservient and doing work for the public, for the benefit of the public. America needs to wake up. America needs to wake up. The world needs to wake up. Because if they don't, I'm just afraid there'll be no way of repairing this. And I don't even know for sure if it will even be replaceable, because it will be so chaotic down here, it could actually be the end of civilization as we know it. Now, I had to get out here and do some work the other day. I just want to change conversations for a minute pertaining to all this. And I had to put in basically an underground culvert right here, a pipe that went from there to there and then up to there. Now, I haven't got it completed yet, but if the pipe is there, I had to concrete some of it, and there's going to be an opening. There's a partial opening right here that goes to that right there, and then there'll be another opening. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Right there. That's the other opening to it. Right there. That'll go through here, and then I'll cut another spot right here and put a wire mesh over it where you could walk on it and it not break it through. That'll be another opening. That the final opening will be all the way over here. That will release the water from the backside where this frog is. I guess the frog done found him a home. That's where the water be released at. While I was in there, I had to go ahead and reformigate all this, straighten this out, entrench that over there where the water, because I get a lot of water off of this building right here of the top, because I don't have gutters on it. I get a lot of water off of the building itself, and then I get a lot of water off of this RV. And the way that it's sloped right here, basically this is where all the water goes. And I even get water off that canopy right there. Some water comes through here. So I had to remanufacture this and making sure that I had things set up to where if it was a torrential flood, because here lately we haven't been getting normal rains. We've been getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 inches of rain in time distances that basically we should only got maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch of rain. But here lately, because of the atmosphere being so hot and all the moisture going further up into the atmosphere, and then whenever it does release it, it releases all at one time, I had to make sure that I had a plan of action out here. That way, if something like that was to occur, which odds are it probably will, that's the reason why the county's out here digging up all the ditches and putting in bigger culverts and stuff, because they know it's not a matter of if it happens, but when it happens, are they going to have things in order to where things will be taken care of properly. I just wanted to show my viewers that, to give you somewhat of a brief idea about, even though I'm going through the injuries that I'm going through, pertaining to prior accidents that I've had in the past, that I'm still trying to do my best. I'm still putting one foot in front of the other. I'm still doing things that need to be done. Like right here. I've got a water system going. And all around the memorial site, I've had to keep waters going there because it's gotten so hot and dry. And with the ground drying up the way that it did, basically, my grass was at the point of total death. And if I didn't put out water sprinkling systems, it would have died. It would have just absolutely just died. And once it dies in the fall, it's almost next to impossible to get it back living again. So the best thing to do is try to keep it living. That way, you'll still have a good root system. That way, the following next year, whenever it goes to the winter, your grass will grow like it's supposed to. I just wanted to share a little bit of that here in regards towards everything that I'm talking about, to identify the fact that I can chew bubblegum and walk at the same time, rather than just be asphyxiated on one particular subject matter. Thanks again. Good luck to all of us. God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless our endeavors towards where we go from this moment on. And please, for God's sake, pray. Pray for our great nation. Pray for the world. Pray for our leadership of the world. And pray that God's second coming pertaining to the Lord Jesus Christ will not be delayed, but that we will see the meek inherit the earth pertaining to his Holy Spirit engulfing this planet Earth and being poured out upon all flesh in these final remaining last days. Thank you very much, and God bless and shalom.